We cannot afford to hesitate any longer.
The Galactic Council chamber was a place where thousands of voices had once filled the air. Delegates from countless species came together here, each representing their homeworld, each speaking for their people. The room was vast, circular, and alive with colors that shifted as alien lights shimmered from the ceiling. Normally, there was a constant hum of debate, arguments about trade routes, technology sharing, and the fragile peace that held the galaxy together. But on this day, the chamber felt different. It felt heavy. The air was tense, filled with unease because of one thing. The humans were gone. No transmissions. No envoys. No cheerful voices echoing through the halls. Every channel that once connected to Earth had gone silent. At first, the Council thought it was a mistake, some technical problem. But hours turned to days and days into weeks. Finally, it was clear. Humanity had cut off all contact. The news spread faster than light. Traders whispered about it on distant outposts. Soldiers talked about it in hushed voices aboard patrol ships. Ordinary citizens, far from the Council's world, looked up at the stars and wondered what it meant. The humans, who had always been unpredictable, had chosen silence. And that silence spoke louder than any words. Ambassador Jiren of the Kale was the first to speak that morning. His species was tall and elegant, their long limbs moving with a slow grace. His voice, however, trembled as he rose to address the Council. "This cannot be ignored," Jiren said, his eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. "The humans have abandoned communication with us. For decades they were among us, loud, passionate, and unafraid to challenge every tradition we held. And now they are gone. I ask you, what have we done to drive them away?" The chamber erupted with voices. Some shouted in worry, others in denial. "They cannot leave." "We need them," cried a small insect-like delegate from the Rim colonies. "They were never loyal to the Council," another said harshly. "Humans always walk their own path. Perhaps they have finally grown tired of us." But beneath the arguments there was a quiet truth everyone felt. This was not a small matter. Humanity's absence was not an accident. It was a decision. Chancellor Vare of the Lorathi, who presided over the Council, raised a hand to silence the voices. Her skin shimmered like polished stone, and her deep-set eyes carried the weight of centuries of diplomacy. "Calm yourselves," she said firmly. "Panic will not help us. We must think clearly. Humanity has been a member of this Council for only a short span of time, but in that time they have become essential." Her words made many heads turn. The word essential was not one often used in politics. Ambassador Talor of the Avari shifted in his seat. His people were known for their calm and their wisdom, and when he spoke, others often listened. "The Chancellor is right," Talor said. "Humans brought something to this Council that none of us could. They are unpredictable, yes. They argue, they resist, they refuse to bow, but they also dream in ways we do not. They look at problems we cannot solve and imagine answers that seem impossible. Many of our recent advancements came not from our oldest civilizations, but from humanity's reckless creativity." A murmur ran through the chamber. Everyone knew it was true. It was the humans who had helped stabilize the fragile trade networks along the outer rim. It was humans who had shared agricultural techniques to restore dying colonies. And it was humans who had stood by smaller worlds when powerful empires had threatened them. Humanity was new to the stars, yet they had quickly made themselves indispensable. And now they were gone. The silence from Earth grew heavier with every passing day. Council envoys sent transmissions, no reply. They dispatched small ships to orbit Earth. Those ships were turned away by human defense satellites. Given no explanation, only silence. Inside the chamber, fear began to build. Ambassador Ryvek of the Drethi leaned forward, his scaled face glinting in the light. "We must not deceive ourselves," he said coldly. "If the humans have cut contact, it is not because they are weak. It is because they are preparing something." "Preparing for what?" a nervous delegate asked. Ryvek's answer was simple: "For war." The word sent a chill through the chamber. The Council had seen humanity fight before. The Drethi remembered most of all. When a Drethi fleet had once threatened a small human colony, the humans had not begged for mercy. They had not surrendered. They had fought with everything they had, and though their ships were smaller, though their weapons were weaker, they had refused to yield. In the end, the Drethi withdrew, not because the humans destroyed them, but because the humans would not stop coming. No matter the losses, the lesson had been clear. To push humans too far was to awaken something dangerous. Now, the council wondered if they had all made the same mistake. Chancellor Vere sat quietly as the voices rose around her. Some called for sending fleets to Earth to force an answer. Others begged for patience. Some whispered that perhaps the council should prepare for the worst. But beneath the debate, a deeper feeling stirred. Guilt, because all of them remembered. Humanity had warned them. More than once, humans had stood in this very chamber and said the same words. Respect us. Treat us as equals. Do not use us. Do not lie to us. If you betray our trust, we will walk away. And now they had Vere remembered her first meeting with the humans. They had been unlike any species she had known. They laughed in the middle of serious negotiations. They argued without fear. Even when speaking to the most powerful civilizations, they spoke of hope as if it were a real weapon. And yet they were fragile too. Their bodies were weaker than most. Their lifespan shorter. But they lived with an intensity that made other species uneasy. They burned like stars, bright, hot, and impossible to ignore. Now that brightness was gone, and the galaxy felt dimmer, the council chamber grew quiet at last, as if everyone had realized at the same time that shouting would not bring the humans back. For the first time in years, there were no human voices echoing off the stone walls, no laughter, no stubborn protests, only silence. And in that silence, the truth settled like a weight over every delegate present. The humans had not left because they were weak. They had left because they had chosen to, and the galaxy, for all its power, suddenly felt very small without them. The Galactic Council chamber had not been this restless in centuries. The air shimmered with tension as ambassadors argued across the circular floor. Every delegate tried to speak louder than the other, their voices echoing off the high walls. The human silence had grown too long to be dismissed, and fear was spreading like a cold shadow over the assembly. Ambassador Talor of the Avari stood again, his thin frame tall and steady. His voice, however, betrayed unease. They warned us, he said slowly. Humans told us many times not to treat their world as a resource, not to treat their people as pawns. And now they have left us in silence. Tell me, honored counselors, did we not bring this upon ourselves? His words fell heavy on the chamber. Delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. None wanted to admit guilt, but none could deny the truth. The Kyle ambassador, Jiren, who had spoken earlier, pressed forward again. His eyes glowed faintly as he spoke with urgency. You speak of warnings, Ambassador Talor, but warnings are not decisions. Silence is not yet destruction. Perhaps they are simply reorganizing. Perhaps their governments have turned inward. But even as he said it, doubt clung to his voice. The humans were not known for quiet retreats. They were known for their stubbornness, their fire, and their refusal to step aside. Silence from them was more dangerous than noise. From the far side of the chamber, a trembling voice rose. It belonged to Chali, a small insectoid delegate from the Rim colonies. Her people had long depended on human trade convoys to survive harsh winters.
If they do not return, she said softly, our colonies will fall.
We cannot endure without their supplies. We do not have the resources they gave us. Her words caused a ripple across the chamber. Many smaller species nodded in agreement. It was not only military strength that humanity brought. It was their willingness to share knowledge, to trade openly, and to build where others only took. But not everyone agreed. Ambassador Rivek of the Drethi leaned forward, his scaled body catching the pale light. His tone was sharp and cold. You speak of them as saviors, he said. But do not forget they are also dangerous. I fought against humans once. I know what they can do. They may act kind, but when they fight, they are relentless. If they are silent now, it is not out of kindness. It is preparation. Mark my words, they are planning. The word planning sent whispers across the room. Planning for what? War, retaliation? No one knew. But the thought refused to leave their minds. The council chamber, usually a place of controlled debate, dissolved into chaos again. They will return when they are ready, shouted one delegate. They will strike at us all, cried another. They are only a young species, perhaps their silence means nothing. The voices rose louder and louder, until Chancellor Vere struck the staff beside her chair. The sound echoed like thunder, and the chamber fell quiet. The Chancellor's eyes swept across the assembly, her stone-like face calm but firm. Enough, she said. Fear will not guide us. Let us speak with reason. We must understand not only what humanity may do, but also why they have done this. Her words forced the chamber into uneasy silence. Ambassador Talor spoke again, softer this time. Do you remember the War of the Ilex Nebula? A few heads nodded. That war had been short but brutal. A smaller world had been invaded by raiders, left to suffer while the great powers debated whether to intervene. The council had hesitated, weighing costs and risks, but the humans had not. Their fleets had gone alone with little support to protect the weak. Many human lives had been lost, yet they held the line until the council finally joined. They did not forget. Talor continued. They told us then that the council acted too slowly, that we did not value justice. And perhaps they were right. Perhaps they look at us now and see the same arrogance. The words stirred guilt again, unspoken but heavy. Chancellor Vere closed her eyes briefly, remembering. She had seen the human delegation after that war. Their uniforms were torn, their faces pale with exhaustion, yet their eyes had burned with pride. They had not asked for praise. They had not asked for repayment. They had only asked that the council do better next time. And yet, had the council done better? Or had they slipped back into comfort, leaving humans to bear burdens they should have shared? The silence from Earth now felt like a judgment. Ambassador Zirin finally broke the heavy pause. If humans are preparing something, he said, then perhaps the best course is to send emissaries, ships of peace, to show them that we wish for understanding. And if they destroy those ships, Rivek countered coldly, then we will know, Zirin answered simply. The chamber murmured again. Some delegates agreed with the plan of peace. Others feared the insult of rejection. Others still whispered that perhaps the galaxy would be safer without humans at all. But no one dared to say those last words too loudly. As the debate continued, reports began to pour in from across the galaxy. On the trade routes near the outer rim, human ships had vanished. On distant research outposts once staffed by mixed crews, only non-human personnel remained. On colonies rebuilt with human aid, statues of human engineers now stood as the only reminder of their presence. It was not just silence, it was absence. Humans were pulling back from every corner of the stars, returning to their homeworld and shutting the doors behind them, and the galaxy was beginning to feel the loss. In the council chamber, Charlie the insectoid spoke again, this time with tears in her voice. They saved us, she said. When the storms destroyed our crops, no one else came. No one offered us food or technology, only the humans. If they are gone now, it is because we failed them. Not the other way around. The chamber grew quiet. Her small voice had pierced the noise like a blade. For the first time that day, no one argued. The fear in the chamber was no longer only about what humanity might do. It was also about what the galaxy might become without them. Would trade collapse? Would colonies fall? Would the fragile peace they had built together crumble without human stubbornness holding it in place? The counselors shifted in their seats, their eyes heavy with unease. They had once thought of humans as unpredictable, dangerous, even reckless. But now in their absence, the truth became clear. It was humanity's very recklessness, their courage, and their refusal to stand by that had held the galaxy together. And without them, the galaxy suddenly felt fragile. Chancellor Vere looked at the assembly, her voice softer now but steady. We face a choice, she said. We can meet this silence with fear, with suspicion, with anger. Or we can face it with humility, with honesty, with change. The humans will not return because we demand it. They will return only if we earn it. Her words lingered. For the first time, the counselors realized they were not in control. Humanity had stepped back, and the galaxy had been left to ask itself, what if they never return? The council chamber was quieter than before. The voices of anger and panic had softened into something heavier, memory. Each ambassador sat in silence, their thoughts drifting back to moments when humanity had changed their lives, their worlds, their futures. The silence from Earth was still unexplained, but in that emptiness, every delegate was forced to remember what the humans had once been. Chancellor Vere was the first to speak, though her tone was not commanding as it had been before. It was soft, thoughtful. Perhaps, she began, we should remember the beginning. Do you recall the first time the humans walked into this chamber? A ripple of sound moved through the council, some quiet chuckles, some sighs, and some murmurs of agreement. Yes, they all remembered. It had been nearly a century ago. By galactic standards, that was nothing more than a blink. Humanity had been young, inexperienced, and clumsy in the ways of interstellar diplomacy. Their ships were smaller, their weapons less advanced, their colonies fewer and more fragile. Many older civilizations had not taken them seriously. Ambassador Jiren of the Kyle remembered that first meeting more clearly than most. He had been young then, still learning the art of politics. He smiled faintly, though his glowing eyes carried sadness. They came in with uniforms too large for them, Jiren recalled, their hands shaking, their voices unsteady. And yet when they spoke there was something in their eyes, a fire. They were not afraid, even though they should have been. That was the moment I realized they were different. Ambassador Chali, the small insectoid delegate, added softly, I remember their laughter. Even in this chamber, so heavy with rules and pride, they laughed as if the galaxy was not terrifying at all. They said, we are honored to be here, but they said it with a smile that was real, not forced. It made them approachable. The chamber hummed with agreement. Humanity had not entered the council with arrogance or demands. They had entered with hope, but not everyone had welcomed them warmly. Ambassador Rivek of the Drethi, his scales catching the light, spoke with a grudging tone. I remember mocking them, he admitted. I thought they were weak. Their lifespan short, their technology behind ours. I thought they were foolish dreamers. The chamber turned to him, surprised at his honesty. But then, Rivek continued, his voice low, I fought them. My fleet faced theirs in battle. I thought it would be easy. But I was wrong. They fought with a spirit unlike any I had seen. Even when their ships burned, even when they were outnumbered, they did not surrender. They adapted. They improvised. And they forced me to retreat. He paused, his scaled hands curling on the table. That was when I stopped laughing at them. That was when I understood they were not weak at all. The silence that followed was heavy with respect. Chancellor Vare leaned forward, her stone-like skin reflecting the chamber's dim lights. She too carried a memory. I remember the first time I truly spoke to a human. It was not here in this chamber, but on a ruined colony. The colony had been struck by plague. My people debated for weeks about whether to intervene, worried about costs, about risk. But the humans did not debate. They sent ships at once. By the time I arrived, their doctors were already among the sick. Their engineers already repairing broken systems. They saved lives that were not their own. She paused, and for the first time her voice wavered. I asked one of their leaders why they came. Do you know what he said? He said, because someone had to. Simple words. But they held more strength than any speech I had ever heard. Many ambassadors bowed their heads, remembering similar moments. Ambassador Talor of the Avari spoke next. His people valued wisdom above all things, and his memory came not from battle or aid, but from words. I recall when humanity first offered ideas no one else dared. We debated for years about the failing stars on the edge of the outer rim. Entire systems were at risk, but none of us could imagine a solution. The humans sat quietly through our arguments, and then one of them, a woman, barely more than a student, spoke. She suggested using networks of mirrors and stations to reflect and redirect energy. We laughed. We said it was impossible. Yet, it worked. To this day, 3 systems live because of her reckless idea. He looked around the chamber, his voice calm but firm. Reckless, yes, but visionary. The council fell silent, the weight of his words pressing into every heart. The memories continued. A delegate from the Aran spoke of humans who had taught their farmers new methods, saving them from famine. A representative of the Valari told the story of a human ship that had rescued their people from a collapsing star, even though the humans barely escaped alive. Others remembered smaller things, their jokes, their songs, their strange customs of sharing food and shaking hands. Each story painted the same picture. Humanity had been more than just another species in the council. They had been the spark, the fire, the unpredictable force that pushed the galaxy forward when it would otherwise remain still. And now, all that remained were memories. The chamber grew quiet again. The memories brought warmth but also guilt, because every memory ended with the same thought. We pushed them away. Chali finally spoke, her voice trembling. Do you remember when they warned us? After the war of the Ilex Nebula? After the betrayal of the Zor Treaty? They said the same words. Do not betray our trust. Do not treat us as less. If you do, we will leave. The words echoed painfully through the chamber. And now, Charlie whispered, they have left. A heaviness settled over the room. It was not the fear of war, not the panic of uncertainty, but the sorrow of loss. It was the weight of knowing that the galaxy might never hear human laughter in the chamber again, never feel their reckless energy, never be challenged by their stubborn questions. Chancellor Vere rose slowly, her stone-like face unreadable, but her eyes soft with memory. We remember them now with pride, with respect, with gratitude. But we must also remember them with honesty. They left because of us. They left because we failed to live up to what they believed we could be. And if we want them back, we must become more than we are now. Her words struck deep. For the first time, the Council began to think not of how to control humanity, not of how to predict them, but of how to change themselves. As the chamber sat in silence, each delegate lost in thought, the memories lingered. Memories of laughter, of battles fought side by side, of dreams shared across the stars. Memories of a species that had burned bright and then in an instant had stepped away. And though no one spoke it aloud, they all feared the same thing. What if memories were all they would ever have? The chamber of the Galactic Council had grown heavier with every passing session. At first there had been arguments. Then there had been fear. Later came memories, stories of how humanity had once stood beside them all. But now, silence hung over the assembly. Not the silence of Earth this time, but the silence of realization. They had begun to understand what had truly happened. It was not a sudden act. Humanity's silence had not come like a storm, but like a door slowly closing, warning them all the while. The Council had ignored those warnings, believing that humanity would always return, always forgive. But now the truth was beginning to settle into every heart. Humanity had not abandoned them. The Council had driven them away. The realization came slowly, piece by piece. It began with a transmission from a small moon, far on the edge of the Council's territory. The message was simple, sent by a voice no one had expected. It was from the people of Kalor, a world once rebuilt almost entirely by human hands after a devastating meteor strike. The message played in the chamber for all to hear. The voice was calm but firm, translated into dozens of tongues so every species could understand. They saved us when none of you would. When the meteors fell, we called for help. Our calls were ignored, dismissed as too costly, too far, too unimportant. But the humans came. They did not ask for payment. They did not ask for favors. They came because it was the right thing to do. Now you ask why they are gone. You know the answer already. They are gone because you did not stand with them as they stood with us. They are gone because you forgot what they taught you. You lost them not because they abandoned you, but because you abandoned them. The message ended and the chamber fell into stunned silence. Ambassador Chali, the insectoid, lowered her head. Her people had lived that same truth. They are right, she said softly. The humans saved us too when the storms came. We praised them then, but later, we forgot. We allowed others in this chamber to mock them, to doubt them. We let ourselves believe they would always forgive us. But why should they? Ambassador Ryvek of the Drethi, usually cold and sharp, leaned back in his chair. For the first time there was no harshness in his voice, only weariness. They fought me once long ago, and I thought them reckless. But perhaps it is we who were reckless. Reckless in believing their patience had no limits. Chancellor Vere looked around the chamber. She saw the shame on every face, though no one wanted to admit it aloud. Yet she knew this moment was important. This was the first time the Council was not thinking of humans as a problem, but as a mirror showing them their own failings. We must face the truth, Vere said slowly. We treated them as tools, as soldiers, as inventors to be used. We praised their courage when it served us, but we mocked their stubbornness when it challenged us. We welcomed their ideas when they brought progress, but dismissed their voices when they asked for justice. This silence is not a punishment. It is a choice. Humanity has chosen to step away from a council that never truly respected them. The words struck deep, heavier than any law or threat. The chamber remained quiet until Ambassador Talor of the Avari finally spoke, his voice steady but filled with sorrow. We were given a chance, he said. They asked us to stand with them as equals. They asked us to treat their people, their world, with dignity. We failed. Now we face the cost. No one argued. For the first time in centuries of council history, no delegate raised their voice to debate. No one tried to twist the truth or escape responsibility. The silence itself was the answer. Reports from across the galaxy only deepened the realization. Colonies once rebuilt by humans now stood as monuments to their absence. Statues of human engineers were decorated with flowers by alien children who remembered the kindness of strangers from the stars. Outposts once busy with human traders were now empty, their docks silent. Even in the smallest corners of the galaxy, people were beginning to speak the truth that the Council had avoided. The galaxy had needed humans more than it had ever admitted, and now, the galaxy felt weaker without them. The Drethi ambassador, Rivek, shifted again. His scaled face looked older than it had before. I used to believe we were the strongest. My people built fleets that could darken the skies of worlds. But I realize now, strength is not only in fleets or weapons. Humanity showed us that strength is also in compassion, in daring, in hope. And we did not value that. His voice faltered, but he finished with words few had ever imagined hearing from a Drethi. We were wrong. The words echoed across the chamber, and for once no one disagreed. Later that day, another message arrived. This one came from the people of the mining colonies on Verdanis. The miners spoke with voices rough from labor, but their words carried the same weight as Kalor's message. When our mines collapsed, the Council debated rescue missions for weeks. The humans did not debate. They came, they dug with us. They pulled our people from the stones with their own hands. We would not be alive today without them. If they are gone, it is not because they are selfish. It is because they gave more than anyone else, and you repaid them with doubt and arrogance. The message ended, leaving the Council once again in silence. Chancellor Vare leaned forward, her eyes sweeping over the chamber. Do you see it now? She asked quietly. Do you see what the galaxy is telling us? Humanity has not vanished. They have not hidden. They have only shown us a reflection of ourselves. They are gone because of what we chose to be, and the only way they will return is if we change what we are. The chamber remained still, the weight of her words pressing into every mind. In that moment, the Council began to realize something even more dangerous than war. They realized that the galaxy, for all its power, could collapse without humanity, not because of fleets or weapons, but because of what humans brought: vision, courage, stubborn hope. Without them, the Council was only a collection of worlds, bound by treaties but not by trust. It had been humanity's reckless spirit that held them together, even when they pretended it was politics. And now that spirit was gone. For the rest of the session, no one raised their voice. No one shouted. Instead, they sat in silence, weighed down by memories, by guilt, and by fear. Not fear of attack, but fear of emptiness. Fear of what the galaxy would become without humans to challenge it, to inspire it, to remind it that doing the right thing mattered more than profit or pride. The realization had come at last. Humanity was not silent because they were weak or because they were planning war. Humanity was silent because they had chosen to step away, leaving the galaxy to ask itself the question it had avoided for too long. What are we without them? And for the first time in history, the Council had no answer. For weeks, the Galactic Council chamber had been filled with silence. It was not the silence of peace nor the silence of unity. It was the silence of shame, of realization, of waiting. Every delegate sat in those endless meetings, speaking less and remembering more. The humans were gone, and with every passing day, the galaxy felt emptier without them. Trade routes faltered. Colonies that once thrived with human aid began to weaken. The smaller worlds whispered of betrayal, not by humans, but by the Council. The counselors themselves no longer asked why humanity had left. They knew the answer. What haunted them now was a different question. Would they ever return? It happened without warning. One morning, alarms sounded over the Council's homeworld. Not alarms of attack, no fleets, no armies. Just a single ship, small, sleek, unmistakably human. It entered orbit slowly, almost calmly, as if daring the galaxy to guess its purpose. The Council chambers filled with restless voices. Delegates leaned forward in their seats, some with hope, others with fear. Was this a messenger? A warning? A declaration of final separation? Chancellor Vare stood, her voice steady, though her stone-like skin seemed heavier than ever. Bring them in, she said. The great doors opened and a lone figure walked into the chamber. A human envoy. They were dressed simply, not in military uniform, not in formal robes, but in plain clothing worn from travel. Their steps echoed loudly against the polished floor. The entire chamber fell silent as every eye fixed on them. The envoy stopped at the center of the circle, their gaze steady, their expression calm. When they finally spoke, their voice carried clearly across the chamber. "You wanted a galaxy without us," the envoy said, "and now you have tasted it." The words cut deeper than any weapon. No one interrupted. No one dared. The envoy looked around at the hundreds of delegates, their eyes sharp but not unkind. "For decades we stood here with you. We argued, we laughed. We fought beside you when you asked, even when it was not our war. We rebuilt your colonies, we shared our food, our ideas, our dreams. We gave and gave and gave again. But when we asked for respect, for honesty, for equality, what did we receive?" The chamber was silent. The envoy's voice grew stronger. "You dismissed us as reckless. You mocked us as young. You praised us only when it suited you. And when we asked you to change, you chose arrogance instead. So we left." Chancellor Vere, who had faced countless leaders and crises in her long life, found her voice faltering as she asked, "Why come back then? Why send this message at all?" The human envoy's answer was simple. "Because you deserve the truth. You deserve to understand the choice before you. Humanity will not be your tool, your shield, your endless source of ideas. We will not return to the council as things are. But we offer you this, a chance to decide what you want to be." The words echoed through the chamber like thunder. Ambassador Talor of the Avari rose, his voice steady but filled with sorrow. "And if we choose wrongly?" he asked. The envoy's eyes met his. "Then you will live without us. You will face your futures without our ships, without our trade, without our voices. We will not harm you. We will not attack you, but we will no longer stand beside you. The galaxy will move on, and so will we." The chamber seemed to shrink under the weight of the words. Ambassador Chali, the small insectoid, trembled as she spoke. "And if we choose to change?" The envoy's gaze softened slightly. "Then perhaps one day the doors may open again. But not with words alone, not with promises. With actions. With proof that you have learned." Chali lowered her head, overcome with emotion. Her people had lived because of humans, and she could not imagine a galaxy without them. The Drethi ambassador, Rivek, rose next. His scaled body seemed tense, but his voice was low, almost respectful. "I once fought your people. I thought you reckless, even foolish. But I see now that it is we who were blind. If there is a chance, even a small one, that you might walk these halls again, then I will work for it. My people will work for it. You deserve more than what we gave," the chamber murmured, shocked at the rare humility of a Drethi. The envoy only nodded. "That is your choice to make." Chancellor Vere looked around the chamber. She saw the shame, the fear, the hope reflected in countless eyes. Then she turned back to the human envoy. "Will you stay?" she asked. The envoy shook their head. "No, not yet. This is not our home anymore. We came to give you clarity, not comfort. Whether you see us again depends on what you become." The envoy's words lingered in the air, sharp and heavy, but also strangely freeing. Humanity was not gone forever. They had not slammed the door completely shut, but they had given the galaxy a choice, change or be left behind. The human turned, their footsteps echoing once again as they left the chamber. The doors closed behind them with a deep sound, leaving the council in silence once more. But this silence was different. It was not the silence of fear, not the silence of loss. It was the silence of decision. For hours after the envoy's departure, no one spoke. Delegates sat in stillness, their thoughts loud within their own minds. They remembered everything, the laughter of humans, their reckless ideas, their stubborn courage. They remembered their warnings, ignored until it was too late. And they remembered the words they had just heard. "This is your choice." At last, Chancellor Vere rose, her voice steady though her heart was heavy. "You have heard them. Now we must decide, will we continue as we are, proud and divided, hoping others will carry the burdens we will not, or will we change and become something worthy of the trust we lost?" No one shouted. No one argued. For the first time in the council's long history, the chamber felt united, not by fear, not by politics, but by the weight of responsibility. Outside, the single human ship lifted from orbit and disappeared into the stars. It carried no weapons, no armies, only the quiet strength of a species that had once again rewritten the rules. The galaxy had always feared human power, but now it understood the truth. Their greatest power was not in war, but in choice. The power to give, the power to walk away, the power to decide what mattered most. And as the council sat in silence, every delegate realized the same thing. The humans had left them not with war, not with peace, but with a question only they could answer. What will we become now that humanity is gone?